Welcome to the Great Awakening Ministry. I am Minister and Yogini Joanne Lee. And on this week's show, back again, is Richard Lawrence. Richard is a spiritual teacher and an international best-selling author whose books have been sold in many countries. These include the international bestseller, Unlock Your Psychic Powers, Journey into Supermind, Realize Your Inner Potential, co-authored with Dr. George King, and God's Guides and Guardian Angels, co-authored with Mark Bennett. He has participated in hundreds of TV and radio shows and talks and seminars worldwide, including GB News, Talk TV, Times Radio, and Coast to Coast AM. In addition to having a column in The Observer, he has written for the Daily Express, Daily Mail, The Sun, Women's World, Here's Health and Fitness, and USA's Whole Life Times, and many other journals. Richard teaches events and workshops such as Awaken Your Chakras at the Aetherius Society in London. We discuss in this amazing show world peace and healing, how a spiritual approach shall bring about a peaceful future for humanity, karma, yoga service to others, and how spiritual energy operates according to natural law and can heal, inspire, guide, bless, and protect us all.
UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good.
Richard, welcome back again to the Great Awakening Show.
Thank you, Yogini Joanne. It's a pleasure.
Lovely, lovely, lovely. And what an amazing show this is going to be. World peace and healing.
Yeah.
So the first question for you, Richard, is the world is in chaos, poverty, violence, disease, corruption, environmental issues. Many organizations are, improving these conditions. But please tell us why you and many others believe a spiritual approach will bring a peaceful future for humanity, not a political or materialistic one.
Okay, so obviously everything needs to be used, and spiritual people who work in multitude of ways at spiritual level really need as a target, to put it simply. So where there are peace talks going on, whatever the motive of all the participants, or whatever we might think of those participants, that's a target, because underlying it is the stated aim, at least, is peace. And that's what we absolutely need. So in the Aetherius Society, for example, we have been targeting the current round of ceasefire negotiations. In fact, we sent out, at the time of the call between Trump and Putin, which happened where they brought about, a very modest, but at least a semblance of a ceasefire, and also the agreement to have talks. We were sending literally hundreds of hours, that's per man or woman hours, of prayer energy while that call was going on. It's certainly a step. Now, I know there are many cynics. I know there are many people with strong political persuasion. So to come to your point, one has to divorce oneself from the politics of it when engaging in a spiritual way, because politics is not the answer. We have it, it can be used, everything can be used. Money can be used in service, everything can be used in service. But the real answer that'll get to the underlying cause and the root and even the karmic cause of these issues is to send out spiritual energy. Because then people change. If you think about it, you could get a peace negotiation, but if the people in the region or the people involved don't change, it won't last. We've seen that in the Middle East for thousands of years. Yeah. So you do need to bring about a change, and that's what spiritual energy can do.
Yes. What about, it just popped into my head, spiritual politics.
Yes.
One day we may have leaders who are in spirituality, of a spiritual, way. I mean, spiritual.
Yes, well, I mean, one of the great spiritual politicians, not the only one, but one of the greatest in history is Jesus.
Yeah.
Who was he was brilliant from a political point of view. I mean, he died because he chose to die. That's a whole other story. But I mean, when he was confronted on more than one occasion with very tricky political questions designed to trip him up, his answers, like, for example, let he who is without sin cast the first stone, is a great teaching in humility and so on, and forgiveness and compassion. But also, it was his way out of a political trap, and he knew it. So, and then he gave, in those days, the Sermon on the Mount. Now, in these days, he's given a teaching called the 12 Blessings. And these were given through Dr. King in 1958, Dr. George King being my personal master, the founder of the society, passed on 1997. But back in 58, he gave this set of teachings. Now, these go much further than the Sermon on the Mount, and they go into a cosmic level. But the practice of these and also the philosophy of these is, you might call it, you're talking about spiritual politics. I mean, it will bring change. Mm-hmm. And I think what politicians would have to do, if they're really spiritual politicians, they'd have to recognize that the spiritual aspect is the highest aspect. The other things have to be done. I mean, material service is a wonderful thing. And look at the sacrifices people make to go out to war-torn regions. They risk their lives. But in the end, though, to bring lasting change, you need spiritual solutions.
Yeah, that's it. That is so true, so true. And how can karma yoga, service to others, assist humanity in world peace? Because you talk about this a lot, and I think it's one of the most important things.
Yeah, I mean, and I know you are very versed in yoga, and I was, obviously you're yogini, and I was checking through some of the ancient Vedic writings quite recently. And if you actually look at them, although yoga is associated with going within, finding peace, meditating and so on, actually, if you go to the core of it, it's about service. Even in the ancient days, if you look at the Bhagavad Gita, in fact, I've got a quote here from the Bhagavad Gita somewhere, which I brought along today, from Sri Krishna. One who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature. Those are the gunas, the three gunas, and thus comes to the level of Brahma. So service, even in that old age times, was the highest yoga. And then one of my favorite figures in the Vedas is Narada Muni. So he I don't know if you come across him, but he's a very ancient, one of the great gods, the great sages, regarded as the king of the sages. In my personal humble opinion, this is just my opinion, it's not an Aetherius Society teaching, I think it's one of the names of the Lord Babaji. But
yes.
That's my own opinion, the real Lord Babaji, because he had a number of names. Yes. But in the Srimad Bhagavatam, I was given a complete set of the Srimad Bhagavatam by the Hare Krishna movement years ago, 13 volumes. I mean, I haven't read them all, but there's this quote from Narada Muni. If one is very serious about liberation, and that means freedom from rebirth, freedom from karma, if you like, he must stick to the process of loving service. Now we're going back here, thousands, I believe possibly hundreds of thousands, well, no, let's say tens of thousands, at least, of years ago, engaging 24 hours a day in the highest stage of ecstasy, and he must certainly be aloof from all activities of sense gratification. But there at the core is service. And actually, Narada Muni even points out there are people who've been doing the austerities, the meditations, the detachment from lower mind, who haven't found liberation that way. And that's going way back. So sorry, it's a long-winded answer to your question. But karma yoga, if not then, it was obviously then, but certainly now, is the greatest yoga. And it's a shame it was relegated in the centuries that came later as a sort of lower yoga. You know, some people think, well, that's just something you do if you're a householder. You can't do anything better. You can't, you know, and no, it's the greatest of them all. And it must be, because if you think about it, if you gain enlightenment, if you become one with all, what's the logic then in not serving? That's the only thing you can do. I mean, you come out and all you want to do is serve all the more, but you know better how you can serve.
That's beautiful. And give the way that you had that oneness to others,
Absolutely.
you know, so that we all can have that oneness and share that.
Yeah, and it's a nonsense really to think, well, you know, you go within and you just detach from others. If you're an enlightened person, you know there is no detachment from others because you are one with others. And so it's a total nonsense. And, you know, some people say, well, don't you want to just get back and enter these states and stay in those states? And you say no, because what you realize is what you kind of knew before, but you know it better now, is service is the thing that really counts. And we can all do it. So coming back to world healing, we can all send energy out to the world in a very dynamic way. And if you want, we can explain how people can do that. And we can make a difference, which I think is, again, a wonderful thing, because people feel this helplessness.
Yes.
And they feel stressed by it. I mean, the root cause of stress, or the biggest cause of stress, is that feeling of helplessness. I'm in a situation which I can't change. I can't do anything about it. And if you're a caring person, you think, well, I can't do anything about the Ukraine war. I can't do anything about Gaza. Actually, you can. That's the good news. And you'll feel better because you'll be able to actually do something. And that is to send spiritual energy out. But one little tip, when you do, whatever your politics, whatever your beliefs, even if you think one side is right, the other is wrong, detach from all of that, because you don't want to color it. Even if you were right about your politics, you don't want to bring that in, because that's controlling people's minds if you're sending that out. Just send pure love.
We will do that. I think let's do that. The last part of this show, that will be beautiful. You know, for you to guide us through a little bit of that. You know, to give that beautiful spiritual energy out through, and talk about the dynamic prayer as well. But what you said was really important. You know, the politicians, when we talk about spiritual politics, you know, I believe that everything is changing, and the new politics will be, you know, governments will change. It'll be more round table. It'll be more like ordinary people coming in to be volunteers in government, and we'll have more people who have awareness and more people who want to be of service to humanity from their heart. That is what a true guiding person should be in them high positions of politics. You know, they should be of service. They should have that. You know, and I think if you take the money out of it and people have to do it voluntarily, you're going to get that.
Yes, well, you know, I mentioned Narada Muni, who I believe is the real Lord Babaji. Of course, Babaji is just a name; it actually means Holy Father. And there is one, and he's the most enlightened. Now, the most enlightened people on earth completely accept his wisdom, but just because they know he's more enlightened than they are doesn't mean there can't be discussions, there can't be opinions, there can't be different strategies and so on. But one great step on this earth would be if the people of earth recognized the enlightened people. If they started by saying, we all defer to the Lord Babaji, for example, on earth, that would be a massive karmic manipulation, and the world would change within seconds just by that acceptance. Now, I don't think the Lord Babaji would, I don't know, but would actually want to take control of all the ins and outs of the world from a sort of, he wouldn't, you know, from a practical point of view, but that's what should happen. And then there should be complete acceptance of those, the ascended masters, that the ascended masters being men and women who have ascended from all races. They're often called the Great White Brotherhood, but they aren't necessarily white. Most of them aren't white-skinned. There's one famous one who is, that's Count Saint Germain, but many of them aren't, most of them aren't. They're not all male either, so brotherhood isn't quite right, I suppose, nowadays in one way. But these ascended masters should be fully recognized. And if they were, they'd be able to become more active in our world. I mean, they're already very active in our world, but they're limited because they have to follow our karmic pattern, not theirs. They, if it was theirs, the world there'd be no war on Earth at all. And so we need to, yes, we want to have the enlightened people, the most enlightened people running the world. We want to have, judges, for example, in courts who are able to listen to their intuition rather than studying sort of law and papers and, intellectual precedent and all the rest of it, which is a lower state of realization. So there needs to be this massive shift, and it will, I agree, it will happen at some point. But in the meantime, a lot of spiritual energy has to be sent out and everyone can do that.
Yeah, that's so true. And what you said, about the world karma,
Yeah.
Why? And this is preventing divine intervention.
Yeah.
For faster transformation at this time, because they can't come in, divine intervention, the highly evolved beings, from multidimensional realms in this universe are recognizing the extent of human suffering, and they are helping to make a better world. But our karma, how is that stopping them? Because of our free will, because we're not awakening yet, the majority.
A lot of people, I mean, my own opinion, and I'm sorry this might be controversial, but I actually think atheism, by atheism, I mean believing there is no God at all, a firm belief there's no God. I actually think that's a mental health illness. I am answering your question. I know it's controversial. I'm sorry if it upsets people, but because they don't know that.
Yes.
And likewise, I love your mention of multi-realm universe. It is a multi-realm universe. There are high beings throughout the universe. They are even more karmically limited in certain regards than the ascended masters of Earth are, because they don't even have that direct connection to this planet that the ascended masters have. And we have people who choose to disbelieve. You'll get people who say, there's no such thing as life on other planets. They don't know that. They don't know there's no such thing as higher realm existence, but they will dismiss it. And those people have a mental health problem, in my view. If they said, look, I don't know, I have no evidence, I can't comprehend it, my intuition isn't developed enough for me to recognize whether that's true or false, I would respect them, because at least they're being honest. And I'd say, here, you need a copy of Realize Your Inner Potential and start to learn to develop your intuition. Problem solved. But joking aside, I mean, that kind of approach is what limits us on Earth. When we can open up, and we can open up clearly, the life forms in the universe are not hostile to us, or if they are, then that we are protected. Let's put it that way.
Definitely.
Because if we weren't, it would be over very quickly and very easily. We can't defend ourselves. Officially, I don't believe this myself, but officially, the governments don't even believe they exist. So how can you defend yourself from something you don't believe in? So these are the problems we have, lower belief and so on. But I completely agree with your point. We need to open our minds, open our eyes, and then there can be more divine intervention, as you put it, or karmic intervention. And here's the good news again. I want to keep coming back with the good news. Every step we take, though, towards them, even a person, I don't know, living in Croydon or, Barnsley or wherever they are, who says, I'm open to the belief in these things. I'm going to try and cooperate with these intelligences. Those people in Croydon and Barnsley and wherever else are changing the karma of the world by doing that. And this is the biggest thing. If everybody prayed in the right way for the world, for world healing, we'd get world healing.
Yes.
Very quickly indeed. While you have a small minority doing it, they're still manipulating the karma of the world. They're manipulating their own karma in a wonderful way towards their own enlightenment, yes. But more importantly, even than that, for the whole world.
Wow. That is just so unbelievable. And it's like these people who don't believe, they are cutting themselves off from divine intelligence. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And if we don't believe, when you believe, you ask as king, you ask for assistance in helping the world. Then they can come down because we believe in them. It's all about our belief, our consciousness. We are such powerful beings, but we've been told that we are sinners. We've been told that we are worthless for so many, hundreds of years. This is the Great Awakening, to realize our power. But for our connection with the divine intelligences has to be open. We have to, invite them in, for them to be able to. It's almost like, that's where the karma stops, because when we don't believe, we put up that barrier. So we really have to, it's up to us. It's, once again, doing our inner work, isn't it? Doing our, being brave and loving, practicing our spiritual inner work, being of service to bring earth peace through self peace.
Yeah, I mean, belief is a higher thing than basic mathematics. Basic mathematics, there is a higher form of mathematics, but basic mathematics, that kind of analytical procedure, which really rules our world, it governs our systems, our laws, our functionality, really a lot. Belief in something higher is a link with reality. Faith, even higher, if it's based on a grounded faith, not a leap of faith, but a sure faith based on the intuition, really, is even higher. Eventually, we will know. Eventually, you get to a stage when you actually know. And this is a tremendous relief when you get to that stage. But in the meantime, and even if you do know, there's still things you have to believe in. So you'll always need belief. And it just needs to be grounded in your higher self. Needs to be guided by your higher self. And belief guided by the higher self will take you to God.
Blind faith. First of all, you go for that whole thing of blind faith, and then it is just a surrendering. The surrendering helps you to know, to be in that place of being.
Yes, so true. And surrendering is very difficult thing to do. It's not easy thing to do. But, as long as it's guided, and we never lose that inner voice. If you don't want to sort of take a leap into the dark, as it were, or somewhere where it's random or imaginary. So there are pitfalls. But if you're being guided by that inner voice, that inner flame, that connection you've made with your higher self through intuition, and you follow that, then it's real. And yes, absolutely, you can surrender to that, and it'll take you all the way.
That's so beautiful. That really is. Yes. And yoga as an ancient spiritual philosophy, this is what we're talking about, isn't it?
I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah. But yoga means oneness, union, doesn't it?
Yes, exactly. Yes.
And this is the oneness that we can have with our fellow brothers and sisters around the world, and the oneness of our soul consciousness with God consciousness, with supreme consciousness.
Absolutely, because everything we do, every thought we think, affects every other person on earth. Every other, to some degree. And even more than this earth. To some degree, it affects the whole galaxy. Strange as that may seem. If you've got a person sitting down in Jamaica, it doesn't matter really where they are, anywhere you like, and they're studying great truths, the real yoga truths, or a fantastic, my favorite book is called The 9 Freedoms, a great work like that, and you're really studying it, and you aren't, or the 12 blessings, which I mentioned, whatever it might be, and the Tao Te Ching, there's so many great works, aren't there? If you're studying those, and you're thinking, not just looking at the words, but you're really starting to bring in what, as you said, your belief, you're believing in it, you're feeling it, you're realizing through it. You are planting seeds into the mind belt, because the mind belt of this earth, especially the realm we are on, which is an extremely basic realm with some very dark forces on it, as well as forces of light. This is a realm where people are all thrown together of all kinds, of all stages of evolution. And so the mind belt is contaminated. It's contaminated by desires, basic desires, selfishness, and worse, hate, all those things, the jealousies, the rivalries, etc., the desire, the greed, is in the mind belt. Now, when you're that person studying a great, profound spiritual truth, you are changing that mind belt. So you are serving. This is good news, I think, for all Yogini Joanne watchers on the Great Awakening show, because when you are looking at these things, we're doing it now, and people watching us or listening to us are doing it as they join in thought with us.
Yeah.
A change is being brought about. So you might call that an indirect change, but it's changing the mind belt, which makes it easier for somebody else to do the same thing.
Yes.
Because I was raised in this country, so it was a Christian country, especially when I was growing up, most people went to church and all of the rest of it. The idea of somebody rising from the dead or having a virgin birth wasn't regarded as nutty or strange, whether people believed it or not at all. And yet it's a very far out claim. I actually believe it to be true. In fact, that's not the first virgin birth in history. Read the Mahabharata. There's several virgin births in the Mahabharata.
Yes.
But
and
nevertheless.
Dionysus and the Egyptian got, many of them.
Yeah, and there too. Yeah. But if you come up with, for example, something that's new, such as the extraterrestrial intelligences throughout this solar system are interested in our welfare, whoa! So because it's a new thought, some people find that very odd. I can't live on Mars, I can't live on Venus, nobody then can live on there, and so on, and all the conditioning that goes into it. You've hit the nail on the head when you talk about multi-realm existence. That's what it is.
Yeah.
But the point I'm making is that but by putting those thoughts out, because for 2,000 years people have believed in the resurrection and the virgin birth of Jesus, it's an easy thing to take on board. But actually, it's quite an extreme claim to really, if you think about it.
Yeah.
One I believe in, but the idea of there being other life in the universe that actually is greater than us and is on a higher level isn't a very strange thing to say. No. It's a very natural thing to say, but it just seems strange because those seeds haven't been planted in the mind belt yet.
Yes. And in our solar system, yes, the 7 planets. I believe in my soul that it's not life as we know it. It's in the multi-dimensional universe.
Absolutely
so
right.
We're talking about, it's in a different dimension, so we can't see it with these physical eyes.
That's right.
They are unseeable. It's in a different dimension that we haven't ascended to yet. So, Gaia, Mother Earth, is ascending. She is raising her vibration, and us humans, we human divine beings, we have to raise our vibration too.
Absolutely.
To raise with her. But as we do that, then, 4th, 5th dimensions, all of this, raising, we will be able to see, and going within. I think that is a portal inwards to the multi-dimensional realms. Yeah.
Very true. Yeah.
I don't think it's out there in the physical so much. Yeah. I think it's more within, through that stargate of the heart, through the stargate of the pineal gland, into the divine mind, which is the divine mind of God, which is the multiverse.
Absolutely. We're on the same page, and it reminds me of something the Master Aetherius, who was after whom our society is named, who spoke through Dr. King. He said, "Go onwards, go upwards, but never forget to go inwards." Yeah. And if you do go inwards, that's where you're going to find these secrets. Without having Elon Musk or a rocket or anything else, Dr. King was able to travel to other planets, and he's not the first.
Yes.
but not in his physical body.
No, within his
Out of it,
spiritual.
yeah. I
Yes,
mean, I
in
bet
the
there's
Merkaba.
people. Yeah, I bet there's people listening to us right now, who have had out of body experiences. They can just happen to people. It's amazing how many millions of people in this country alone, according to some polls, have had an out of body experience. It's
Definitely.
something quite natural. It's something that just happens. I know someone it happened when they were in a dentist chair under anaesthetic, and they were suddenly watching the dentist on their body, and these
Yeah.
things can just happen. Now, if you take it further, though, you can travel in that body. And
Yes.
you can go to other realms of this earth.
Yes.
I haven't gone to other planets in my astral body, knowing consciously that I can remember anyway. But you can certainly go to other realms, that I have done, on this earth, and
Yes.
you can see life there, and it continues, and it's extremely interesting, especially if you go up. If you go down, it's very disturbing. And that's
The higher
probably
realm.
where people actually should go, because it needs a lot of work is needed there if they're able to. But if you can go higher, you can have experiences just like you're saying. As we look through our eyes, you can't see, but if you go there, you can. I mean, I held a workshop recently. You were at it. We tried a little experiment in people actually looking at the aura, just trying to. I gave them a little bit of guideline. I'm sure you remember. Nearly everybody, and I think there was something like 90 people there. Nearly every one of them saw something of that aura. Not in their imagination. They were able to see an etheric counterpart just through the right guidance. And that was just a little silly little exercise in a way,
Yeah.
but they were able to do it. And then they knew they could do it.
Yeah.
And most of them had never done it before.
That's so true. And I feel that the physical eyes, I believe that we see with our spiritual inner third eye. And we look, the third eye, the spiritual inner third eye is the soul consciousness, looking through into this reality through the physical eyes. But if you want to see higher dimensions and you want to visit other realms in this multiverse, then you can use your energy, your Merkaba, which spins, and you can use the spiritual energy body, the Merkaba.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because Dr. King, who's done it, has actually gone to certain other planets in his astral body, did say that when you raise Kundalini in its entirety to the third eye, the Christ center, then you can gain that particular power. So you've hit that right, absolutely spot on. I think it's interesting. I was thinking about this the other day. The spine, the physical spine, ends at the base of the skull, doesn't it? So you could say it ends somewhere not far away from the throat center. So you have these basics, not basic, I mean, you have the centers, the major centers, 5 of them, along the spine. When you get to the Christ center, though, although there's a connection through what is called a nadi, or a psychic channel, between that and the Christ center, you're no longer actually traveling up the center of the spine, because you've gone beyond the spine. Now, I don't want to get off topic here, but the spine, on all the yoga writings, as I'm sure that go into this, from the Upanishads to wherever you look, really, they tie in the basic mind substances called the gunas, the people who are familiar with it, the rajas, the tamas, the sattvas, to those lower, to the spinal channel. And they also, of course, those who see the 5 mystical elements, earth, water, fire, air, ether, would take it as far as the throat center. But when you go above that, which is what you're talking about there, if you're able to, then you're going even beyond. You've moved beyond those elements, or the governing of those elements. You've moved beyond the 3 gunas, even sattva, and you just are elevating your consciousness. You're surrendering. That's where one of the great surrenders comes at that point, to a higher mind. And although I haven't done it, yes, one of the things you would then be able to do, if you did it in its entirety, would be to go to other worlds. Certainly, you can travel to other realms below that stage on this earth.
That's unbelievable. It's just amazing. And that's the whole reason for us to be on earth. It doesn't matter if you don't believe in anything. It doesn't matter if you're a Muslim or a Christian or a Buddhist. The whole reason why we are here is to raise our Kundalini through many
Absolutely.
lifetimes.
That's all we're here to do.
That's all we're
Yeah.
here to do.
Nothing else.
Yeah, it's the most important thing in the world, isn't it? It's like
It's the life force, and it's unlimited, and it's connected to Gaia, as you say, Mother Earth.
yeah,
But it has to be, because we're on Earth.
yeah,
It'd be interesting if we were on Mars. Would the life force be female? I don't think it would. That's just an opinion.
yeah. The
Would
serpent.
Kundalini, or whatever their equivalent is,
Yeah,
would that be a female? I don't personally think it would, because I don't think Mars is a female planet.
yeah, yeah.
But we're on a female planet, and so Kundalini is a she,
Mm,
and it's a fire, and it's all consuming, and it has to consume everything, and it has to transmute everything as well.
yeah.
And that's where some of the ancients got it wrong, because they were just focused on detachment.
Yes.
And that's why I think they didn't get all the way through to liberation. I have a view that the path, the old path anyway, of Kundalini yoga and some of the advanced paths will get you to a samadhic state, to an elevated state, an enlightened state quicker than the old path of karma yoga, not the one that you can practice now, by the way, which is can be a very fast path, but the old path. But I don't think it would necessarily get you all the way through to ascension, liberation, for that reason, that it hasn't brought about a complete transmutation. And you've detached, but you haven't transmuted. And that's the key. That's the key word now, transmuting. So Kundalini has to rise, and it will naturally transmute if it's allowed to, if you don't block it.
Beautiful, beautiful. And also the rishis and the old form of yogis, in the Himalayas, they would go in their caves and be in there the whole of their life to reach their own, samadhic and ascension. That's what they're there for. But in this world now, to reach that state, but then bring it to the people, to come back and be of service. That's where, you keep saying that, and it's so important, to be a humanitarian, to bring it and help humanity ascend as well is the key to bring peace on earth, isn't it?
It is. And I think even you talk about those days, and I'm coming back to, I'm mentioning a few times today, but Narada Muni again, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, he had a plan as put in there, which is that the sannyasins, the people who were totally dedicated to their own enlightenment and so on, should keep moving. They shouldn't just stay in a cave. He said, and this predates some of the cave yogis. It goes back to the days of the rishis and before those days, really. He said they should go from village to village to village all over the world. In fact, they shouldn't even stay more than a day in one village. And I think it's a brilliant plan because what it was, they were like, if you like, sort of little spiritual bombs or something. They were going off in different villages, because they were taking their consciousness with them. They didn't have the Great Awakening show available online.
That's right.
To reach those villages in those days. But these people, their enlightenment. So it wasn't, I think if I'm right, I think it was an absolutely brilliant, clever strategy by this great intelligence to get this enlightenment, because he knew that the people in the villages weren't going to take these steps. They were too occupied with their lives and everything that people are still occupied with today, the equivalent of. But by bringing these different sannyasins through the villages, these weren't ascended people, but they were serious people who were dedicated to their enlightenment. Then they'd be planting seeds all over the place. Now, we can be more direct than that. And in this show later, we can send energy without even leaving our village or our town. Wherever we happen to live, we can directly channel it out. But this was a very clever move that was made. But you're right, some of them didn't do that. They stayed in their caves, they focused on themselves, and if they focused on themselves, they weren't listening to their own inner voice, because their inner voice would have been calling them to serve.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
they were creating blockages
Mm,
while practicing the most rigorous austerities in
that's
their
right.
caves.
And what is it for in the end? It's for world peace, world ascension. You know, we're here to light our light so that others see and light their light too, and then all the lights shine together.
Indeed. Indeed.
And
Yeah.
this is what Jesus said, you know, this is what, you know, he didn't come to teach us how divine he was. He came to teach us how divine we are.
Greater things than I have done can you do. And likewise, Lord Buddha. I mean, there you
Yeah.
have two wonderful teachers. I do believe there's a relationship between those two.
Mhm.
In mystical circles, they're regarded as brothers.
Yes.
I think they came from the same planet, which is Venus, in my opinion, not my opinion, in the society's opinion. They are two intelligences giving, I mean, Lord Buddha giving a more advanced teaching because he had a more advanced people to teach. But Jesus, I mean, you can't, I mean, it's brilliant. I mean, it's
Yeah.
outstanding. Now, of course, in the 12 blessings, he can give far more advanced teachings, and they really work. And they're I couldn't recommend them strongly enough.
Yeah, beautiful. And you can get them on the Aetherius Society website.
You can. That's the 12 blessings. It's a wonderful book. I don't know how many hundreds of times I've read it and heard it. You can hear it as well, actually. You
Yes.
can hear the transmissions as they were delivered. They're also available.
And it's about giving out them beautiful words, because our words go out, our thoughts, feelings, words, and actions all go out to, as you said, affect humanity and affect the world. So
Indeed.
giving that out is so important, isn't it?
It is. It's vital, and you know so people don't need to underestimate themselves, and they can get rid of that feeling I can't do anything. Who am I to do anything? Everybody can make a difference. Everybody can change. Doesn't matter what your age. It doesn't matter your state of health. You can do this, and while you're doing it, for example, if you're sending healing to somebody you know and love, or even somebody you've never met, but you know what they look like. While you're sending them healing, visualize them well.
Yes.
Now, visualize them in good health, and you can make a big difference to them, much more difference than you can make by just, being sympathetic and so forth.
Yes. And please tell us about the spiritual energy healing, because spiritual energy operates according to natural law.
Yeah.
And it can heal, inspire, guide, bless, and protect us all. It's
Absolutely.
How can we harness this through the 12, through dynamic prayer, which is what the 12 blessings are. Tell us a bit about the spiritual energy that we can harness and give out.
Sure. So there's a universal supply of spiritual energy, and we can channel it through us. And when we do, we should feel compassion and love for others. Don't put any dogmas of your own or even your beliefs, even if they were right beliefs, about what other people should do, or what Putin should do, or what Zelensky should do, or Netanyahu. Just let all that go. Take a situation, if it's a world situation, and just send love energy out to it. And the way you do that, first thing I would do, actually, I would remove watches, rings. If you can remove rings, you can't always remove rings, so that you've got a free flow of energy. Because what you want is this energy to come down through you, out through the palms of your hands, where there are chakras, but also, and this is absolutely key, through your heart center, your heart chakra. So you're going to visualize white light, white because it contains all the colors of the spectrum, coming down through you. This is the universal supply. It comes from and through the sun. And you bring it down through you, but you don't need to even go there. You just see white light pouring down through you, and you will feel it. You'll feel it. This is not an imaginary thing. This is a real energy that you're invoking through your visualization. It comes down through the arms. You hold the palms upwards like this. You visualize it flowing through 3 points, 1, 2, and most importantly, the heart center, which isn't on the left side. It's right where the breastbone meets, but a few inches in front. So this energy radiates outwards. Then you can either send it to an individual who you know is ill. I mean, you might come across an accident, and the ambulance has been called, and you pull your car over to the side, you can't do any more, you just send healing. You can do that. Or you could send it to somebody you know. If you're sending it to somebody you know and they're willing to cooperate, all the better. Then they can cooperate with you. So at 9 p.m. I'll be sending you this. They can sit there at home visualizing white light as well. That'll help them in their own recovery, because they've then made an effort as well. Anyway, you can send it out. Now, if it's the world, if it's Gaza, if you visualize Gaza at all, you visualize it at peace. You visualize it in harmony, even in prosperity or with aid or whatever. You don't visualize the dire situation, photographs we see on the news. You just send it out and you make a mental request and you do your prayer for Gaza. When you finish that prayer, and if you have other people who'll do it with you, that makes it all the more powerful, by the way, because 1 and 1 is not 2. There's basic mathematics. 1 and 1 is not 2. 1 and 1 is at the very least is 3, because there's you, another person, and the energy created by the combination. And we know energy is created between people. So that's the minimum it is 3. It could be 4, but we won't go into that. So you send energy out together, or you can do it alone. It's very powerful alone. Now, you might say a prayer. Now, this will depend on your own beliefs, how you word that prayer. However you do word it positively. If you're going to take a prayer, let's take a prayer here, say from the 5th blessing, there's 12 blessings, and most of them have a prayer at the end of it. And here's a beautiful prayer, which people can use. So you do this, you say, "O divine spirit of everlasting life, let the mighty power of thy love flow forth into all the peoples of the world, so that they may be risen up to realize their divinity, so that they may live and act in this light, to let this light flow forth forever through them. Almighty God, there will be no barriers now." So that's an example of a prayer. You can do it much softer than that. It doesn't really matter about, how it's not a performance. It's just got to come from the heart with feeling. But that's a beautifully balanced prayer there, because you're praying that the mighty power of thy love. So humility is a very powerful force in prayer. In fact, the word "O," it may sound silly but by saying "O divine spirit of everlasting life," which is another word for way of saying God, or Brahma, or Allah, or what another name that you want to use for God. But "O divine spirit of everlasting life," by saying "O," immediately you create a certain humility, and you're calling on something greater than yourself. And this is powerful. Humility is powerful. Thankfulness is powerful. Thankfulness can be very difficult to do. If you're in a difficult situation, in life, and you're able to accept that there's some lesson in this for you, I know how difficult this can be, that somehow, maybe not from this life, maybe from another one, there's some karma you're dealing with here. And if you could say a prayer of thanks, you don't feel very thankful, but if you can say it and try to mean it, you make a big difference to your karma. Things will change for you.
Yes.
Thankfulness is a very powerful thing, and so is humility.
And so is, if you was harsh to someone and you immediately turn to them and you say, "I'm sorry," and you mean it from your heart.
Yeah.
You are, the karma is not so great from your harshness that you gave to that person.
That's true. Yeah.
You are dissolving that. Same as being thankful, you're dissolving that karma.
Yeah. You could even do this. If you are in a terrible row with somebody, and you get very, very annoyed with them, and they're very, very annoyed with you, and you're in the middle of being annoyed, this is wrong. This is bad energy. It's going nowhere, and you want to stop it. You can look them in the eyes and bless them Mentally bless them, I mean. They don't know you're doing it, but something can happen. There's a practice actually in Realize Your Inner Potential book I wrote with Dr. King called the protective practice. Very simple, but it really works. I know that because I used to teach in a social priority school where there were some pretty dangerous kids there. And, I was in a difficult situation and I used the practice. And the whole class, at that point, this teenager had a chair in his hands and he had hit the deputy head over the head with a cricket bat, this boy. And he had a chair and the whole group were egging him on. And I used that practice and it worked. That's all I could say. That's all I had left. He wasn't taking any notice of me at that point. I just blessed his eyesight.
Yes.
I knew his name. I thought, God bless the eyesight of. This is a practice given by the master Aetherius. It really does. It's simple, but you don't even have to be with a person. You could do it over a distance. You might be having a difficult conversation on the phone, and you mentally, but you've got to mean it.
Yes.
Try and bless and that's difficult sometimes when you're annoyed. You've got to. It'll transmute your anger, and you just turn it into a blessing, and it's very powerful.
So powerful. Also, I've found that chanting Om when I'm anxious or when I'm in a really, not very good situation, I'm having trouble sleeping and I'm feeling frustrated or angry, chanting Om continuously really calms the emotions. Yeah, it's a
mantra is a wonderful thing, and we, in our view, there are strict laws governing it and how you use it and how you give it out to others. But in fact, we run mantra chanting events here, and we use mantra. We'll go to a mountain. We're going to few this year actually in England, so people can find out if they're interested. They can find out about them.
Brilliant.
And we're going to combine prayers like the one I just read out there from the 12 Blessings with mantra. And it's extremely powerful. You've got, if you like, that combination of the West and the East right there. And you've got, it's active and it's going out for world peace, for freedom, for healing. We've had some wonderful results sometimes. You can't be governed by results. You never know what will happen.
Yeah.
But, you just have to keep sending out the energy.
That's right. And that saying, Richard, when one or more is gathered in my name.
Yeah.
It makes it, when we gather and when we meditate and when we pray and when we give out that healing in our groups, it's just so powerful.
Yes, you're referring to the presence of Jesus, aren't you? Yeah, absolutely. You get the presence of Jesus and of any other master, by the way. Yeah. If you do something in the name of a master, you will draw their presence in one way or another to you. And that's a fantastic blessing. In this prayer, though, I think it's very brilliantly done because, first of all, you're praying for all the peoples of the world, but you're okay. You want them to be healed. You want them to be protected. But what's actually said here, that they may be risen up to realize their divinity. Now, if people were risen up to realize their divinity, everything would change. Their health would change. Their approach would change. Yes. And so that they may live and act in this light. Now, can you imagine if the whole world, the peoples of the world, realized their divinity and lived and acted in that light?
They would do no harm to another because they would realize the oneness of each other, and they would realize if I harmed another person, I'd be harming myself. Because
yes, exactly. That's so true. Very well put. And as the prayer ends with a kind of strong affirmation, there will be no barriers now. And there can't be barriers of any kind, be they racial, be they political, be they family, be they whatever. Those barriers aren't real. None of them are real. National barriers. Nationalism isn't real. Not really. I mean, you might want to help your community. You might want to help your nation. But really, we should all want to help the world.
There's only one soul consciousness shared by all of us.
Yes.
It's just the divine flame that is inside in each individual, but there's only one.
There's only one.
There's only one creator. There's only one energy. Yeah,
Yes.
there's only one God, goddess, if you'd like. Together.
Yes. And the flame from the goddess, the Mother Earth,
Mm.
is something we can all bring. And you mentioned, one feels night, or one feels, I can't recall exactly what you said, but worried or stressed, or unable to sleep, or concerned, and certainly sometimes people feel unprotected. They might be in a business environment which is really unpleasant, and everyone around them is rowing, or there's terrible jealousy, or rivalry, or it might be another environment. The violet flame practice is such a simple and such a beautiful transmuting practice that anybody can use. In fact, I did the prayer there, and I suggested we visualize white light. But also, I would suggest that people, in doing that practice, also visualize the violet flame. And this comes up from, so the white light comes from or through the sun in this solar system anyway. All energy in this solar system comes from the sun. We are solidified sunlight.
Yes, we are.
That's all we are.
It's the biggest pranic solar energy in our system. It comes from the sun.
Yeah. Our crown center is our miniature sun.
Yeah. Wow.
And that's why, a golden light can be seen to come from that. But with the violet flame, this comes from Mother Earth. And this is protective. And this is transmuting, which we need, because there are so many blockages within our auras, within our, actually even within our chakras, that are preventing us from sending a full flow of energy. When you do these practices, by the way, so to finish that, sorry, you just have the palms facing on the knees, and you just close the eyes, and you'd make a mental request, and you'd visualize violet flame like energy coming through and around you, and up through and above the head, and all around you, through the aura around you. Even if you can't see your own aura, it exists. You can actually feel it with practice, but it exists. This flame will come through it, and it will cleanse it, and it will purify. So when you then send the white light through you, it'll be more unimpeded, less blocked, more free flowing, because you've removed your own impurities to some degree, which we all need to do. I certainly need to do. That's something we need to practice regularly. There are several ways of doing it, but this is a most wonderful way. So that's what I recommend: white light, violet flame, then come back to the white light, send it out for your world healing, your prayer, your healing over a distance. When you've finished your practice, place one palm on top of the other and move it just once across, which seals the flow of energy, because it's also, if you like, a yogic thing that I've now finished that ritual. I now move on. I now detach.
Yes.
If you give healing, one of the secrets of healing actually is to detach from the healing you've given. By all means, come back the next day or the next week, whatever, and do it again, give some more healing, but don't go around trying to wonder how it went and this and that. You do it, you give it your all, you detach. And sometimes you'll get a miracle.
Wow.
I was up in Barnsley recently, and I got everybody in the group to send healing to 5 attenders. We had 80 people, we could only have 5 there, and they were sending it using mantra, actually, and the practices I've just gone through. And there was a woman there who had really bad knees, and this is this month, she was completely healed from those bad knees, and she contacted us later and said she's been cured of that. And that's from the people there.
Yes.
In about a 1 minute flat, by the way.
Yeah. It's
sending
powerful.
her energy. This really does work.
Yes, it does. Wow. And this is the way to world peace and healing, isn't it?
It really is. It's so good because it's something everyone can do.
Yes.
It's a change everyone can make. Yeah. And you think about it this way: if there's lots of white light filled with love, so love is the carrier wave, you might say, for the energy. And so you're conditioning it as purely as you can, in a most unlimited way you can, with love. And you'll get better and better and better at it. And as you do, you'll start to really feel it going through you, going through your palms. Your palms might change temperature. And you'll feel that. Many things can happen. I know people who have never done, as it were, psychic development, but they have prayed and they've ended up hearing the energy. I mean, very audibly flowing through them. All kinds of things can happen. And then if they do happen, you don't think about it. You just stay with your prayer, but they'll just happen naturally. And this is encouraging for people to have these, as it were, psychic experiences along the way. They aren't the goal, but they are encouraging.
Wonderful. Wow. Honestly, Richard, you are just giving us so much beautiful, divine wisdom. And
I think you are, Joanne, as well. This is a two-person show at the moment.
Thank you so much. And thank you for all of your, guidance and advice. And because it's so important for people to know that they can help. They can give out this energy and help the world. Thank you so much for being.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Yeah.
And I invite people to come to my website, richardlawrence.co.uk, get in touch with us. We've got lots of events on. Actually, we're thinking of putting on a retreat in September, Joanne, up in the Lake District. We've been invited by the owner of a retreat centre to do that. So that's another thing that's coming up. We've got events all the time.